And we're back. We are looking at the Chapter 11, Jarrett Chapter 11, the Great Depression, the New Deal, and we'll look at the study cards. I believe there are 6 of them, and these, of course, can be found in the back of the Jarrett chapter, and we're going to walk through each and every one of them and take a few moments to look at them. So let's begin. And we have our first study card. Now, these are exactly as they appear in the back of the book, in the back of each chapter. All I've done is essentially put them on a page here in this PowerPoint, on a slide in this PowerPoint. So we're going to walk through them, and these things are great study guides. They hit they hit all of the key points. They hit all of the things you need to know. So let's walk through them. Okay, let's begin with our first slide here. The cause of the Great Depression. It should be the causes of the Great Production. Cause of the Great Depression. There we go. And let's take a look at them. First, real quickly, and go back and look at each one in more depth. We have number 1, overproduction. Number 2, speculation. Number 3, uneven distribution of wealth. Number 4, shaky business practices. And our last one, restricted international trade. Those are the causes of the Great Depression. Let's take a quick look at each one in a little bit more depth. In overproduction, we're looking at more products were being manufactured than people could buy. You are overproducing. There is a surplus. Supply and demand always holds true. When supply goes up, all things being equal, prices fall. If supply goes up and demand increases as well, okay, it's not a problem. But when supply goes up and demand does not, you have overproduction, you have a surplus, prices will fall. Speculation. It is the speculation in the stock market, in the 20s that led to the stock market crash in October of 29. And again, speculation is pretty simple. People invested in rising stock prices. Good idea. You want to buy stocks as low as possible, sell them as high as possible. So as prices were rising, more and more people started to invest because they saw other people they knew, friends, making money, so they wanted to get in on it, so they started buying more and more. They also began to speculate in real estate holdings, buying land, buying property, buying buildings, fixing them up a little bit, waiting a few months, a year or so, and then selling them at a profit. In October of 29, the prices fell, and that, of course, leads to the stock market crash. Again, supply and demand. When demand goes up dramatically, as we saw thanks to speculation, prices rise. And because of the artificial demand being created, thanks to speculation, prices were being forced up dramatically, far more than what the company or the stocks were worth, and it all came crashing down. Stocks more than tripled in the 1920s. The price of stocks more than tripled. That is due to unreasonable demand, an artificial forcing up the price due to increased demand. Okay, uneven distribution of wealth. While it is true that there is a large number of unrich people and a very small number of rich people. That is not necessarily odd in human history, particularly here in America. But what we're starting to see is that there are some super rich individuals, Rockefeller and Carnegie and Vanderbilt, we've discussed some of these puppies before, and their wealth is growing far and above beyond the average. So even though people are making more and more money than ever before, because of the increased innovation and invention of Americans, the birth of the automobile industry and the Nickelodeons and all these other things we've discussed, there still was a very uneven distribution of wealth, which of course created quite a few problems. Shaky business practices. Bankers would invest their depositors' money, and the dummies would do it very poorly. I gave you this example in class the other day. You deposit money in my bank after loaning some money out for cars and houses and everything else that banks loan money out to. I, as a bank president, then take some of the money that's left over, just sort of sitting there, and I begin to invest it in either real estate or the stock market. Again, going back to all of this over here, okay. And when the market starts to fall, I cannot sell the products I purchased, the stocks or the land, to recoup the money I took from you. Again, this is illegal. Well, okay, at best it's shaky. At worst it's just illegal. And so then, because I poorly invest your money, you lose it all. Finally, restricted international trade. Thanks to high protective tariffs signed into law by Herbert Hoover, pretty much all international trade dried up. When we placed tariffs on imported goods, let's just say from England, they retaliated by placing tariffs on our goods. Therefore, no one was buying goods, and international trade died. All right, our second bullet, the human impact. Oh, sorry, thought I was doing a little different color there. There we go. Human impact of the Depression. No safety. That should be net. I do not know why this is so poorly typed out. I apologize for that. That should be no safety net. High unemployment, bank failures, and foreclosures. Okay? Because of the high unemployment, the bank failures, and foreclosures, there was nothing there. There was no safety net. No one to provide help. But again, as I mentioned in the previous video presentation, normally in a situation where you would lose your house, maybe to a fire or a loved one would die, you would turn to family and friends in the church. Unfortunately, because friends, family, and church were so overwhelmed by the millions and millions of people who needed help, they just couldn't provide it, and therefore people turned to the government. The government is the largest source of income or of money. The government is a resource for experts, and therefore people started to turn to the government. Let's continue. Recording the misery, we had Dorothea Lange, John Steinbeck. Dorothea Lange, I need to go back and redo this. I'm so sorry about the misspelling. Record the misery of the people in her photographs. And, of course, Steinbeck wrote about the suffering of migrant families during the Depression in a series of articles. And, of course, eventually his novel, The Grapes of Wrath, documented the Okies as they left Oklahoma, moving to California, looking for work. Now, again, why did they move from Oklahoma to California? Well, the Dust Bowl. Heavy winds, and again, the wind blows pretty heavily in the Great Plains most of the time, but due to the poor usage of the land, overusage of the land, due to the drought, the heavy winds carried the topsoil away, that buried homes, destroyed harvests. Over 1 million farmers were driven off the land thanks to the Dust Bowl. Let's go to our next one. FDR's philosophy and style. His brain trust. FDR brought in a group of academics, a group of experts in their field, in the theory of their fields, as his cabinet, and they provided new new ideas for programs to help lift the nation out of the Great Depression. In addition, he had his fireside chats. His fireside chats became very well received. He used the radio to speak directly to the American people. First time this had been done. In addition to providing information on what government programs were coming out or how government programs were working, Roosevelt provided a sense of optimism, a sense of belief that we here in America could lift ourselves from the problems which we found ourselves in. For that reason, and really no other, though there are other good things that came out of the Fireside Chats, his sense of optimism, his belief that America will be great again, buoyed the spirits of the American public. And for another reason, the Fireside Chats were very successful because of that. The New Deal. There we go. The New Deal. FDR's program for lifting the nation out of the Great Depression. There's a couple of points right here. When the FDR took office, he called Congress into special session to pass legislation. Much of his massive legislation program, which again was addressed during this special session of Congress, Much of the massive legislation program was enacted within the Congress's first 100 days, and from that point forward, all presidents are sort of judged on their first 100 days in office, trying to so-called fix what had been broken by the previous president. Many of his programs focused on the relief, recovery, and reform that we've discussed previously. Let's take a look at each one of them. Here's some of his New Deal legislation. Of course, we're looking at relief. Short-term actions. Short-term actions designed to tide people over until the economy improved. Short-term actions like providing either a direct monetary payment to them or jobs being created. One of those programs under the relief portion of the 3 R's was the bank holiday. He closed all the banks, which would not be allowed to open. Banks would not be allowed to open until they are proven to be sound, judged to be sound by the federal government. Next, we have the government creating jobs to get people back to work. Government created jobs, going back to short-term actions, getting money into the hands of the people as quickly as possible. There are 3 listed here: the CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps, the PWA, Public Works Administration, and the WPA, the Works Progress Administration. They were all part of the New Deal legislation. They were all part of the relief of the 3 R's. Let's go to our second one, recovery. Restore incentives to produce. By this, he tried to prime the pump through different pieces of legislation to get the economy going. 2 of them that he created or he signed into law that were written by Congress would be the NRA, sometimes referred to as the NIRA, the National Recovery Administration, and the Agricultural Adjustment Acts, the AAA. Unfortunately for Roosevelt, both of these were deemed unconstitutional down the road. But the idea was to prime the pump, to get the economy going, to get money flowing. Let's move on. Our third of the 3 R's, reform. This was designed to remedy defects in the U.S. economy and to prevent future depressions or to prevent future problems. Just keep it that way. So reform were measures that were designed to create fixes for the problems within the economy. Many of those fixes need to be were brought about due to the laissez-faire economics of the first 30 years or so of the 1900s. So what we have here, we have the FDIC. This insured bank deposits to restore people's confidence in the banks. Again, if your money is guaranteed up to, again, I think it was $60,000 to begin with, you would have no problems putting your money in the bank because you know if the bank closed, you would get your money back because the government guaranteed it. The SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, it was a watchdog agency that would watch over the stock markets and make sure that another collapse, like one we just saw in October of 29, would not repeat itself. Finally, the Social Security Act provided a safety net for workers with unemployment insurance, old age pension, and insurance for families of those who died early. Sorry, not dearly, but that should be early. I'm very sorry about that. I need to go back and reread these things much more clearly. I'm sorry, I copied and pasted a lot of this stuff. I converted it from a PDF to Word, and sometimes that occurs. You get little glitches. That's clearly what happened here. I apologize. I'll go back from now on and reread these much more clearly. But anyway, so Social Security provided this safety net with unemployment insurance, old age pension, and insurance for families of people whose loved ones died early. It was paid for by contributions by both the employees and the employers. So again, you, as an employee, you and your employer pay an equal amount, 6.3% each, total of 6.3%, yes, 12.6% total of your salary goes to the federal government in Social Security, okay? And that then pays for all of this. Money goes in every month. Checks to people receiving benefits goes out. Any money left over then goes to the general fund and the government spends it. And the next month we start all over. key individuals in this chapter. Okay, take a look at a couple of them. I keep forgetting to do that. Not my finest video, sorry about that. Key individuals in this chapter: Herbert Hoover, president when the Great Depression began. That's not really true. It is arguable that the Great Depression began in 32, though there are others who would argue it began in 33 after he left office. Yeah. He was in office when the Great Depression kind of got started, or one of the really big steps toward the Great Depression with the stock market collapsing. True, he was in office then. Did he do a whole lot? No. Because of his belief in rugged individualism, he failed. Okay, he failed to take enough measures against the economic woes that eventually lead to the Great Depression. If he would have done more, could the Great Depression have been stopped before it got started? Yes. But that just wasn't in his belief system. His economic belief system did not allow him to do that. Okay. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, elected president in 32, introduced new programs to get the economy moving again. He was very successful in creating government jobs. Millions of them were created. There was some money that was spread around, but he never ended the Great Depression with his New Deal programs. What ended the Great Depression was World War II. Two more on this slide. We have John Steinbeck, the writer, who wrote The Grapes of Wrath, depicting the plight of people who are affected by the Dust Bowl. And finally, on this slide, Eleanor Roosevelt. She was a political activist who served as the eyes and ears of her husband, who was the president. And we are done. Finished. Okay, we are done with this slide presentation. Hopefully it'll be of some help to you. And